Hey guys, Ivan here from FordMuscle.com, and today we're introducing a brand new project. All right guys, here it is, our newest project for FordMuscle.com. It is a 2001 Mustang Cobra. We were lucky enough to grab one with the amber taillights that everybody's after. We bought this car as a roller in the summer of 2021 in preparation for this upcoming road race build actually. So I'll walk you guys around the vehicle, kind of show you some of the things that I've noticed that need repairing. We're going to completely go through this thing before we put it on the track, even to do some baseline testing. So here we go. It even includes the 99 and 01 front bumper that everybody wants. As I mentioned, we bought this thing as a roller, so the engine and transmission were out of the vehicle. Currently the engine bay is empty, but we're working with enginelabs.com to put together a nice healthy little 4.6 liter NA combo to get this thing moving pretty well down the track. Pretty clean little chassis overall. Completely stock car besides a Borla catback and a MGW shifter. I'll show you some of the things that I've noticed as I've walked around the vehicle. One of the things is that this is a 210,000 mile chassis, so all the bushings in this IRS are totally toast. So we'll actually be replacing the entire IRS with a low mile 04 Cobra IRS that I picked up. As you can tell, there's also a lot of brake parts that we're gonna need to be replacing, but overall, the chassis is in good shape. Brakes need a serious rebuild, which we'll take care of. But other than that, overall, a really clean chassis and a good vehicle to start with. So I'll get it up a little higher, and then I'll walk you guys through the underside. All right, here we go. Now that I have it up in the lift, I wanted to kind of show you guys how clean this thing is underneath. I mean, remember, this is a 210,000 mile chassis, so it needs some work, but everything really looks solid and clean. There's not much rust outside of what I see back here, which is just some surface, but really a no big deal since we're going to be replacing the gas tank anyway, and we'll get that cleaned right up. I did see a massive leak on the diff and a bunch of worn out bushings, but really, again, not a huge deal for us because we've got a pretty solid way to fix that anyway. Moving forward, this thing is pretty clean. I did degrease it, but just wanted to make sure I could show you guys exactly what we're gonna be starting with. All right, I just wanted to give you guys a final look at the wheel well area, kind of take a look at the brakes and the IRS that made these New Edge Cobras so iconic. As you can see, as I mentioned earlier, the front brake package needs to be completely gone through. We'll go through and rebuild the calipers, put some new rotors on here, and we'll actually end up replacing these really, really rusty shocks. Whether they're good or not, I just don't even want to take this thing out on the track with them. Steering rack looks to be in decent shape, which the 99 and 01 Cobras have the desired rack if you're trying to do some road racing. So we'll take a look at that, make sure it's in good shape. Driver's side package or brake package is also in the same shape. We'll need to take a look at the axle bearings, see what those look like. Take you to the back. The rear has the same amount of rust. Shocks also need to be replaced. The upper and lower axis joints are completely toast on this thing, so we'll be swapping in that newer 04 Cobra IRS that I picked up from our friends at Barra Brakes. They actually had one hanging around, and we were lucky enough to pick it up. Here is the passenger side as well. Passenger side's just as rusty and crusty, but overall, this thing's in great shape. All right, guys. The last thing I'll leave you with for this video is the pile of parts that we've been collecting over the last 6 months since we bought this roller to make sure that we can keep this project moving along and COVID is not slowing us down in any way. So we got some really great partners in this build so far. our plan is to build a nice budget-friendly track toy that we can road race through NASA and SCCA. And then also this year we plan to go to Ford Fest with Holly later in the year. But the first thing we're going to do is go through the entire chassis and make sure that we can baseline test it. And when we do go baseline test it, make sure this thing is really safe. Obviously with 210,000 miles, this thing is pretty worn out. So we want to go through, check hub bearings. We want to check the entire RS, make sure all the bushings are in good shape, make sure the tie rod ends are in good shape, put some decent stockish shocks on it, and also make sure we get in alignment, check the brakes, rebuild the brakes. So as you can see, what I'm filming here is, like I mentioned, the parts that I've been collecting over the last few months. One of the first things that we're actually going to address with one of our biggest partners on this build, who is Maximum Motorsports, we're going to address safety first. So here's their 4-point roll bar with the additional diagonal bar. We've got the rear bars laying there. And as you can tell, we've got some other really great partners. We have Momo on board that's going to help us with safety, including seats, harnesses, and then up top, you'll see a radiator hiding up there from Fluidyne. Stida has been kind enough to help us out with sourcing some really hard to find parts right now. So a nice clean radiator, some Hawk pads, and a couple of things we were able to get from Stida. Those guys are more than just suspension manufacturers. They actually are a retailer that carry a bunch of really nice Go Fast goodies. And then we're working with Barrel Brakes, as always, to make sure that we put and rebuild the current brake package and, you know, replace what needs to be replaced. Put some nice stainless steel brake lines on this thing before we can get on track. So we'll do that. Power Master has some nice engine goodies for us, starter and alternator. American Racing headers, that's what's in the big box. Right in there, we have a nice set of long tube headers for this engine build that we're working on now. And then, what else do we have up here? Energy Suspension has provided some engine mounts, things like that. Outside of that, one of the biggest things that we're going to start with is this nice and clean, very low mile 04 Cobra IRS. Our friends at Bear Brakes had this thing laying around. Rick Elam over there made me a nice sweet deal on this thing because they never end up using it. So we are going to throw it in this thing to do baseline testing with instead of worrying about rebuilding everything in this low mile one for now, since we plan to go through the entire suspension with Maximum Motorsports on this thing. I don't really feel like doing things twice. Obviously, down the road, we plan to replace every single bushing with Delrin and Poly, along with Maximum Motorsports IRS kit. But for now, this stock unit will keep us nice and safe for all the baseline testing that we plan to do. And then also, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but the 03 and 04 Cobra tank, which is what we have here, is actually a factory sump tank. So when you're out there hitting some G's on the road course, this thing makes sure that the pumps are submersed in fuel the entire time and you don't have any fuel starvation on track, which is fantastic. And actually, I was able to pick up some 04 Cobra low mile Bilstein shocks and struts to refresh this thing from a local recycler. So yeah, that's it. We got a bunch of really badass goodies that are getting ready to go on this thing. But before I get to work, I wanted to make sure that I fill you guys in on what the actual plan for the project is and what you can expect over the next few months. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. I'm going to get to work. I'm going to start tearing this thing down. But yeah, stay tuned. We'll be releasing content on FordMuscle.com starting early January, not to mention on EngineLabs.com, where we'll be taking you guys through the entire engine build. There's going to be a 3-part series on EngineLabs.com where we'll be showing you the short block, the top end, and then getting this thing, or getting the engine in the car, getting it on the dyno, getting it tuned, and then getting it ready for the track. FordMuscle.com will be handling all of the chassis development stuff. So over the next year, year and a half, we'll have plenty of content around this vehicle for you guys. And you can also follow me on my personal Instagram at Ivan Korda, K-O-R-D-A. Some of you guys may be following me already from Project F Word that you can see there in the background. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you later.